11. Here we are at 11:11. Welcome to Free Yourself podcast, Healing Hearts and Minds, where we explore the depths of human consciousness, the power of the mind and the power of the heart, and the journey toward well-being. I'm your host, Jade Rattam. I'm a spiritual psychotherapist with over 40 years experience in the field. So today I will be interviewing a young woman. Her name is Chrissy, and we're going to delve into her journey, what it's been like for her. So I hope you enjoy the experience for a profound conversation. And I just wanted to welcome you, Chrissy. It's an honor
Hi.
to have you today.
Hi. It's an honor to
Really.
be here.
Yeah, it's so wonderful to see you, I have to say. It's just absolutely wonderful. And I was telling Chrissy that we're just going to be ourselves because everyone else is taken.
hmm
That's true for all of us, right?
Yes.
And also, we're going to, she's released the confidentiality that is by law, she's protected by in order to do this podcast. So you agree to release your confidentiality protections?
Yes, I agree.
Okay, so let's start.
Ooh.
Oh, okay. So how are you feeling about being on this podcast? You are the first person on my podcast. You are
Oh
the
my gosh, I'm the first person.
having as a guest on the podcast. Absolutely.
I'm excited. I'm a little nervous. Well, I was nervous, but then I was thinking just there's nothing to be nervous about. Just be yourself. And I know how to have these conversations and it feels good to have these conversations. So if anything, I was like, this is gonna be just like easy and fun. So
Good.
I'm excited.
All right. Me too. Tell us about what you were going through before you actually sought therapy. What was going on in your life, your mind and heart?
I was living with constant anxiety. I'm talking like so much so that it was physically embedded in me, and I didn't do a lot of things. Um, I was afraid to do so many different things. I was afraid to leave the house. Um, I've always had it. It's always stopped me from doing different things. Like I never thought I would be able to honestly just be a normal person. Um, I realized I found out I had OCD through you, but it started to get really, really bad, and I didn't realize what it was. And I got to a point where I couldn't go to work anymore. I couldn't leave the house. I couldn't leave my bed. I wasn't eating. I was not doing anything, and I was a complete zombie. And it was absolute rock bottom for me where I got. And I've been going through this kind of thing my entire life. I'm 27 now, and I've been depressed and dealing with anxiety ever since since I can remember. I've been feeling these feelings. But me moving out and being on my own and being away from my family, it was kind of like I hit that rock bottom and I just needed to find help. I was really like, I need to just get help. I don't know what to do. Like I did not have the tools to save myself. And I also didn't understand what was going on with me.
Yeah, that must have been really frightening, not
Yeah.
understanding what was going on.
Yeah, it was really scary. And my roommates, and my friend, everybody noticed. My roommates were really worried about me. They're like, "You're not leaving the house. Like, you're not eating." They noticed I wasn't even like leaving my room to use the bathroom. I was just sleeping. All I was doing for days was sleeping. And I had anxiety attacks every day for months, every single day. That would be super debilitating, completely take me over to the point where like I would last throughout the night into the next day. Um, I basically was in a place where I had all of this acne, and it was like a hormonal issue or something. I got very like hyper fixated on skincare and trying to cure it and holistic approaches and all these different hormonal things. I got so obsessed to the point where I was checking the mirror every day. I had all these like lists of things in my head that I would have to do to make sure I felt okay. If somebody touched my neck or something touched my neck or my face, I would literally have to go watch it because I would just sit there physically uncomfortable from the fact that I felt somebody touch me, because in my head I'm thinking, oh, it's going to turn into this or whatever. So I probably looked in the mirror over 1,000 times a day. I looked in the mirror so much, and I would pick and I would look so closely at every little thing on my face and obsess and break into anxiety. And I felt so ugly. I felt like nobody could possibly stand looking at me. I couldn't stand looking at myself. And I had this manager at work who has actually gone through something similar, who's gone through depression herself. And I kind of expressed what was going on to her. And she was kind enough to let me like take a leave of absence off of work. No questions asked, just simply take off and come back when I wanted to, which was like beyond what I could have ever asked for. I went home to visit my mom thinking that I was going there to get rid of my acne and go to a dermatologist, things like that. I did not think that I was going to get into therapy. Even then, I wasn't like, oh yeah, I want to start therapy or I want to get on antidepressants or anything like that. I was like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. Like, I'm fine. I don't need that. I know enough. I self-therapize, whatever, from just reading stuff online. Like, I thought that I knew everything and I didn't need it. And then when I got to my mom's, I was an absolute zombie. She even tells me I was not there. I was completely just gone. I had no appetite. I didn't want to do anything. I couldn't pay attention to anything. That was something that was really hard for me, is I couldn't pay attention to anything. TV, reading, a game, nothing would interest me. Absolutely nothing. All I wanted to do was focus on my OCD and my acne and like look in the mirror. It was horrible. I couldn't have a conversation with my mom at all. I couldn't stick up with conversations. And it started to turn into like eating only specific things because I thought it would help me. And it was exhausting. It was extremely exhausting. And then finally, while being there with my mom and just having anxiety attacks every single day. I mean, every single day. Like every day was wake up, eat, stare at the ground, get into an anxiety attack, cry, go to sleep, stare at myself in the mirror. And my mom was like, so my sister had you as a therapist. She had a really good experience. And so my mom had your number and has been trying to get me to call you she had been trying to get me to call you for a long time, probably over a year. And I just wasn't wanting to start therapy. I wasn't wanting to try it. And I just felt like, I don't know. I always try to figure out what the fear was. I just think I felt like, I don't want to say too good for it, but just that I didn't need it. And even though I was at such a low place and maybe I didn't believe in it, but seeing how much it helped my sister and where she was and where she came back from, and like talking to her about it and her experience, she's very loving about it, very soft about it. It made me feel really safe. And I also really didn't have another option. I was so desperate for help. I was like, I'll do anything. I don't even care at this point. And I think that desperation, I had to hit rock bottom in order to finally start to talk to you and get help. And I wish I would have done it years before, but I'm still glad that I did it then. Because I don't think I would have been where I am right now. But I started to talk to you. We talked about getting on Prozac, SSRIs, all the things. I started that journey. We started talking, and lo and behold, here we are today.
Yeah. Would you like to tell everybody where you are today? Where you told us where you were, and now where are you today in less than what? Less than a year.
Oh, I think it's just about a year.
Just about.
Just
That's
about a year. Like we're like in that realm. Um, I'm really good. I I genuinely used to dream about feeling like more normal and like feeling like I could be like a normal person or be more like my friends in the sense that I could go out and do something without being crippled by anxiety of what people are going to think about me or like how I look and what I'm wearing, things like that. Like so critical of myself. Where now it's so much less. If I ever have bad thoughts, I'm able to talk myself through them and be like, oh, like that's nothing. Where before I would be debilitated, I'd be in bed for the rest of the night and crying. Where now I'm able to be in a relationship. I've never been able to be in a healthy relationship or a loving relationship or open myself up to somebody. And I have a boyfriend now, which is crazy, and it's going really good. I feel good about my job. I feel good about my life. I'm inspired to make art again. My relationships with my family are so much better. My relationships with myself is so much better. I like find myself like really loving myself where I would never do that before. I find myself being more graceful with myself, more gentle with myself. Before I'd be very critical. The first thoughts would be you're horrible, you're disgusting, you're worthless, everybody thinks you're a burden. All of those things like would be right at the forefront of my brain. And it was so debilitating. And I don't really have those thoughts anymore. And if they ever try to poke through, I wipe them away so easily now. It's like I feel like I have the tools now to just be like, oh, I know what that is. That's not me. I'm not going to listen to that. I don't have to listen to that or absorb that. So, yeah, I feel good. And I feel like our sessions now aren't as often, but when I do have them, it's a really nice refresh. And it just feels really good still to like still talk to you.
thank you. Yeah. So let me ask you this: when what was it that finally made you decide you would seek a therapist? What changed your mind, or was it a who?
I think it was a little bit of what and who. I think it was, I realized because I had this cockiness, like, oh, I can handle it. I can deal with it. I'll be fine. Like, I read enough articles online. I don't know what I was thinking to deal with it myself. And I thought, oh, like, it's just the acne. It's not my mind. If I fix the acne, I'll fix my mind and like I'll be able to move on. But that wasn't the case. What was going on was more than the acne. It was something that was, or the way I felt about my body. It was something that was deep rooted in my brain. It was something that needed to be fixed. So I think that like hitting that rock bottom and realizing, oh, I really don't have the tools and I do need help. And it's not normal for me to be thrown into these fits of anxiety where I literally can't like talk or like think straight or get out of bed. And then thinking about where my sister was, I think it helped knowing somebody or knowing a story of somebody that had done therapy and found success. I think that kind of inspired me, especially someone I knew. It was my sister, my older sister, who my older sister she is a doctor, but she's always been very skeptical of things and she's very much logical and um the way she explained it to me was really, really reassuring. She made me feel really good about it, knowing that she came from a really dark place to fully functioning, feeling good, back to herself, present again. It was really inspiring for me. And I was like, I want that. Like, if she can get that, and I feel like I'm in a deeper hole, like, I was like, I would do anything to climb up these walls of this hole and get out even a little bit. So I was just desperate. And um, my mom was telling me to do it. My sister was telling me to do it. And I didn't want to. Like, I really did not want to. I was like so nervous. I don't know why. I didn't think that you could help.
What helped you to build the trust in that relationship?
Um, I think you were just really understanding and having someone to just listen to me instead of it was just a lot different than talking to somebody who in my life who doesn't have the tools or know exactly the right thing to say. Not that like, everyone always says the perfect thing, but you gave me tools like right off the bat and you were understanding of like where I was at and you kind of met me right where I was at. Which made me feel like, okay, like I have somebody who's in this with me and I'm not alone, which was really a really good feeling. And I think at first I was like, oh, this isn't going to help. Like the conversation was good and I liked it and it felt good, but I was still just like doubting because I was still having the anxiety. But every time we talked, I found myself feeling good. I found myself feeling hopeful, feelings that I absolutely did not feel at all during the day or week or in months. I found myself coming out of the sessions feeling like this almost like charge of good energy, this charge of like a little bit of joy, which I hadn't been feeling in a while. So I was like, okay, like this, I'm feeling like I am getting better. Like I want to continue. I want to like keep going through this, like get on the antidepressants, just try, see what can help. And I found myself like over the next couple weeks still being at my mom's house because I was there for about 2 months and I was talking to you almost the entire time. I found myself starting to get excited again about life. I found myself being able to pay attention to things again. I was being able to watch TV. Like that sounds so small, but I was not able to pay attention at all. I did not care about anything, anything. So to be able to just watch a show with my mom and like be distracted by it and not be thinking about anything else, I was like, ooh, that's amazing. I was able to cook again. I was cooking dinner for my mom and me. And she could see the light coming back into me. She's like, I'm starting to see you again, where I was not there. And so that made me feel good. And I felt like you and I had a really good rapport and had really easy conversation. And feeling myself progress and feeling like you and I were on the same page and like you had my back was like, I just felt like I had support and like I could do it.
Good. And you sure did. You
Yeah.
sure did. It was magical how
Mm-hmm.
you went from the bottom and moved up and took your life back,
Yeah.
the life you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
It's really was such an honor to go through that process with you.
Yeah.
And what do you feel like the process itself? It's. Do you think it's just it's being given the skills and being listened to that was helpful? Any other things about the process itself that you think was helped you to dig your way out of that hole that you were in?
I think like something I was telling my friends because my roommates are my friends and they were in therapy or one of them was in therapy on antidepressants, so we're all kind of in that same world and having those conversations. um it was something I remember telling them something about therapy that I really thought was really cool was that every week we would be processing what I was going through. We'd be talking about it, we'd be dissecting it, we'd be talking it through. And in my normal life, I'm not doing that. In my normal life, I don't have every week I don't get to sit down with somebody and break down what's going on and talk it through. And somebody who's unbiased, I don't get like I'm not going to talk to my friends about that. Um so it was like, ooh, like every week I'm actually digging through things and uncovering things and discovering things about myself and through that process learning new things and feeling better and better and better. So it was like really cool like to just have that outlet to have these conversations. And I didn't realize how powerful a conversation could be. I really think it's almost funny. Like I I really just didn't understand therapy or how it could work, but it really does almost feel like magic in a way. We did the work and everything, but to have those conversations is just like I can't even put words to it. It's just so healing and it feels so good. And I'm so pro therapy now, where I used to be so anti therapy, or I was definitely so against taking antidepressants as well. But those helped me so much. So,
And you sure did the work. You made it happen. You
yeah.
took everything that you went through in therapy and you applied it. And the next week, I would sense an energetic difference. You worked it and you made it happen, and you created the life that you wanted. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't created for you, not by me or anyone else. You actually created the life that you wanted, step by step, day by day.
Mm-hmm.
And you did it. And it was amazing. It was for me, it was also just, it was an honor. And it was so amazing to be part of that process, to watch you. It's like a flower unfolding. It's to
Mm-hmm.
watch somebody like come back and experience joy and happiness again and be able to work and support themselves and have a full life.
Mm-hmm.
To witness that and be
Mm-hmm.
a part of that,
Mm-hmm.
also very magical for me.
Yeah. It's really cool. And I know even there's some people in my life who are anti-therapy as well. But I don't know.
What would you tell somebody who is anti-therapy, who's just closed to the idea, or has listened to other people who've had bad experiences? There are plenty out there. I do want to say that for those that have had therapy and didn't have a good experience, I understand that. When I was teaching psychotherapy on a graduate level, I noticed that all the students that went from undergraduate to graduate school without life experience, they didn't have the critical thinking skills. So without those critical thinking skills,
Mm-hmm.
it's, how would you be a good therapist? So
Mm-hmm.
um, they're just people that went into this field for themselves and aren't necessarily uh, there for as effective healers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so when that happens and there's not a good match, it can feel really not just rejecting, but hopeless.
Yeah.
It's so important to find that match.
Yeah, it's like that feeling of, oh, I've hit rock bottom, or I've hit a place where, oh, I really need a therapist. I need to get help. And I mean, not to mention when you hit those moments, as being someone who's been in those moments, those places, you don't want to search for a therapist. You don't want to Google anything. You don't want to search for anything. You don't want to ask questions.
Nope.
I was lucky enough, I was very privileged and lucky enough to just be handed your phone number, to be honest, and be able to call you and have my mom help me with that. But and to have heard, things about you and know that you're, felt like it would be maybe a good match, and then it was a good match. But I've had my roommates had a therapist very, very recently where she did not like it. She did not like the situation at all. And she got a new one. She just changed it to a different one, and it was immediately a better situation. I think everybody needs something different. She wanted somebody who would, and these are little things. She wanted somebody who would just be more on her level, someone who would more talk to her, more maybe like a human being. She had a therapist who she felt was very robotic, which could be good for some people, but for her, she didn't like it. So she got someone who was a little bit more animated, and she felt more comfortable and safe opening up. I think we just clicked. You just got me, and we're really like reassuring and understanding, and I just felt like I was taken care of, and I think that's what I wanted. I wanted to not be, I felt like with you I wasn't being judged, and I think that's the main thing that was keeping me from getting help was I would feel like everybody was going to judge me, or
It is like that when we judge ourselves so
yeah.
harshly. We can't imagine someone not judging us that way
Mhm.
because we're judging ourselves that way. Why wouldn't somebody else judge us?
Mhm.
That that's very astute of you to remember that, because that is a lot of it is the fear of judgment. And when you're already down and out, that's the last thing you need. And
Mhm.
that's what the fear is. A lot of
Yeah.
that fear. Yeah. So it sounds like your advice would be that somebody feel that they have a match, because some people don't know that, hey, if it doesn't feel good, should I trust this? I'm already feeling badly. I already don't trust my feelings right now. So if this therapist doesn't feel right, maybe it's me.
Mhm.
I think that it's really important for people, no matter how badly they're feeling, is to
Mhm.
trust that if you're not connecting with that person on some level, it's not the right person for you.
Yeah.
It's like a date. You go out on a date. If it doesn't feel good, you don't go out on a second date,
Mhm. And that's
right?
okay. And
Which
that's
is fine. Which is
fine.
fine, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But that click, that connection is what makes it work. Without that connection, you're just going to be wasting your time. And if you think that that's what therapy's like, then of course you're going to be closed to it. It didn't work
Mhm.
before. Why should it work now? Because you think that was therapy when in fact it wasn't. Because
Mhm.
therapy only works when there's a connection, when there's a good match.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine it going very well if we didn't have a connection, if I didn't feel comfortable talking to you. So, yeah, my advice for anybody who is thinking about going into therapy or feeling like they need it, if you get somebody who doesn't match with you, that's okay. Like, we're all human. That's the thing about therapists, is they're also human beings. They're not robots. So, you may meet somebody who just doesn't jive with you, and that's totally fine. Maybe you moving on to someone else will give them room to find someone that does click with them, and you'll find someone that's right for you. It's a normal thing, and it happens. I was lucky enough to not have it happen to me, but I have friends who it's happened to and who have found someone new and then found a better situation where they feel really good about it. And I've seen them grow. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a really important relationship. It's a very intimate relationship. For some
Mhm.
people, they're opening up about stuff about themselves that they've never shared before. So you have to be able to connect with that person if you're going to be vulnerable, if you're going to be
Mhm.
opening up yourself for the first time and with another human being.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I encourage people, anyone who have been in therapy and didn't have a good experience, to uh, interview therapists before
Mhm.
they actually choose one.
I like that.
It's too important a relationship. I mean, we do that with doctors. We try out a doctor. If we don't like them, we move on, right?
Mhm. And your mental health is so much more important than I ever realized, especially just going through this journey the past year. I'm I'm a completely different person. Like, it's crazy. I still, like, sometimes I'm just like, wow. Like, I'll just stare off and be like, this is, like, just trying to comprehend how it was even possible. But we did the work. We had the conversations. We worked through everything. I think this just came to me. I think one of my biggest fears for therapy, like like my whole life, um, was I have memories that I've blocked out, memories that things that have happened to me when I was younger that I don't want to re-remember. I don't want to live through again. And I thought going through therapy, I would have to do that. I thought we would have to sit back, I would have to close my eyes, and you'd be like, okay, live through everything. I honestly thought that's what would happen. Maybe it's just from movies, I don't know, but that's absolutely not what happened. And I just remember even one of our first conversations, you telling me that we didn't have to do that. Like, and in order to heal those things, we didn't have to do that. Like that I know what happened and we don't have to go into it, which made me feel so good because I didn't want to go into it. And I feel like I've healed a lot from those places without having to go super into it and relive them. Um, which is really awesome. So for anyone that is maybe thinking that, you do not have to go through those things again. You do not have to live through them again. It did help me process them though, and they're not weighing over me anymore as much as they were. I mean, not at all really, which is really awesome and like life-changing.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, you allowed that to happen. You allowed yourself to move forward. And it is true that if you're not ready to deal directly with something, no one and nothing should make you go there. Because I really believe that in order for people to feel safe, they have to go as the slowest part of them feels safe to go. The slowest, not the fastest. So when you're not ready, you honor that. When you are ready, it will naturally come up for release. Yeah,
And it did.
and it did.
And, I mean, we got through it.
That's right. You should. I'm telling you, 5 stars.
Yes.
5 stars. Seriously, that was amazing.
I
Let
mean,
me ask you this: where your life is now, what was your attitude about meds? Because a lot of people are have a lot of conflicting feelings about meds. Some people are totally against it. Some people are totally for it. And I was just wondering where you were before you started therapy, your attitude about meds, and what you think about it now, and if there was a change, what was that change?
Okay. Before, I think my attitude on meds was, and my outlook on them was definitely negative. I wasn't very interested in it. I think knowing that my sister went on them and how much it helped her, I think a little part of me was like, okay, maybe. But growing up, I've just read horror stories, and I've had friends that took them and were like, yeah, I went crazy, or I was suicidal, or all this stuff. So I'm like, oh, like that's how it's gonna be for me. So I was definitely really scared. I think I chose to do it mainly because I trusted you, and the way we talked about it made me feel really good about it and safe about it. And I didn't feel like it was something I was being forced to do, or if I didn't like it, I could stop. And then my sister talking to me about it as well, explaining how it is, and made me feel a lot less scared and open to do it. And then starting to take them, I definitely did feel a little weird in the beginning just because your brain's getting used to it. And I didn't have a good relationship with, what is it? It's psychologist. Yes, with my psychologist.
Oh, with your psychiatrist.
My psychiatrist. I always get it mixed up. With my psychiatrist, I had a horrible relationship with him. I did not like him. He would not communicate with me and was telling me to up and lower my meds left and right. So I didn't like that. And you were very much like, you need to do what feels good to you. And if you don't like this, we need to find someone new. And I felt like, okay, yes, like every part of my body is telling me this is not a good situation. So I found a new way to get meds, set everything up, smooth sailing. I could feel myself eating again, paying attention more, as I said, like wanting to go out. I was going to the beach with my mom. I was like, oh, let's go shopping. I was able to go see my friend that lives in town and see her family, which was huge because I didn't want to be seen by anyone. I didn't want to talk to anyone. Every mirror in my mom's apartment was covered. She covered every single mirror, so I wouldn't have to look in the mirror. Because if I caught one glimpse of myself in the mirror, I would go into a panic attack until the next morning. So I could feel myself slowly being able to look at myself. I could feel the anxiety attacks lessen and lessen and lessen. It became not every day, but maybe every other day. And if I'd get through a day without an anxiety attack, me and my mom were high-fiving. We're like, yes, oh my gosh, like it's getting better. And then I got to the point where everything was going so well, I couldn't see myself wanting to get off of them. I was having no bad side effects or anything, and I was only seeing positive effects. And with therapy as well, it was just, I could just feel myself going up the mountain. So, and I feel good about it now. Both my roommates are on antidepressants. I actually inspired one of my roommates to get on them. She's on the same as me. And I've seen her mental health go up exponentially, and with therapy and everything as well. And it's really, really cool.
I think some people are afraid of meds because they're afraid it's going to change them or make them different, or
Hmm.
um, like take their personality away, or
Yeah.
so what would you say to people who are really shut down to meds in terms of us? And again, I want to reiterate, I always approach this with a quality of life
Mm.
issue. Not, I'm not pro meds at all.
Yeah.
If there were other ways to handle it, I always prefer one to use the tools and skills they have. And
Mhm.
the problem is that when you have people that don't want to do the therapy for so long, a lot of the issues get hardwired.
Mhm.
So initially, if they had gotten the help in therapy, they may have been able to avoid the medication because it's not hardwired yet. Once it gets hardwired, logical response, and then it becomes difficult because no matter how hard you work, it doesn't seem to be going anywhere. It's
Mhm.
like it's like a wheel that just keeps turning, no
Mhm.
matter how hard you try. And that's when I know it's probably hardwired. So
Mhm.
essentially, all that the medication should do, it shouldn't change anything except allow you to be able to switch tracks, get it off the old track, the old neurological pathway, and you being able to redirect it, which is what you ended up doing. You ended up being able to redirect things. But until
Mhm.
you got on the meds, it just was, you were caught in a cycle. So
Mhm.
what ends up happening is that people that don't want to go on meds actually create a situation where it gets even more deeply hardwired, and then they don't even have a choice. If, I mean, some people, in order to uh, move beyond the stuckness, there, it's just too hardwired.
Yeah.
They
I
really,
feel like I was there.
yeah, it's a CPU unit, your brain. It
Mhm.
is a CPU unit. So if you think about it and you're stuck and you've tried everything, then all the med's going to do is allow you to help yourself.
Mhm.
That's the thing. It's not going to change your personality. It's not going to make you a different person. It's going to give you the room and allow you to change yourself to make the changes you want. Because there's only two ways, as we've talked about many times. Either you control your mind or your mind's controlling you.
Mhm.
You have a mind that's not well and it's controlling you,
Mhm.
it's hardwired probably.
Mhm.
If
And
you
it's
really,
debilitating.
it's debilitating.
It's not. I don't wish that on anyone. That
Right,
feeling.
and you do not have to be on here's the other thing, even if you get the meds to help you to get off it, you don't have to be on, you shouldn't be on meds for the rest of your life. You won't
Yeah.
need to be on meds for the rest of your life,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So, and that's the good news. It's all it's doing is allowing you to make a new pathway in the brain so you can function better.
Mhm.
That's it. There's and the other thing is that if your body doesn't like it, your body's going to know it. It's going to give you, it's going to say this doesn't feel good and you're not on the right med. So it's
Mhm.
complicated because you can be on the right med with the wrong dose, or you can be on the wrong dose with the right med. I mean,
Mhm.
just, you have to get the dose right, you have to get the chemistry
Yeah.
right.
I started on when I first started, I'm on Prozac. I started on a little higher of a dose than I should have started on, and I
Right,
think that's
we
what made
decreased
me,
that.
I didn't like it. I was like, "Oh, I feel this is too much for me at once."
Yeah,
And
I remember.
you suggested I bring it down, and I was like, "Okay." So I brought it down. As soon as I brought it down, it was not as intense and I felt so much better, and I consistently stayed on that dose, and that's just where I think I needed to be, and it was amazing. I didn't feel like anything weird from it. But yeah, my mind was definitely in control. 100%. The thoughts that were coming through, the fear that was coming through was constant and absolutely debilitating. And it definitely gave me, yeah, like I wanted to work through everything. But as you're saying, like I needed something to take the edge off. I needed something to help me like be able to get through it, because I was hardwired to think a certain way and feel a certain way. And I was so convinced that I was the ugliest person alive, that I was most unworthy of love, that I was never going to be able to be loved, like that I would just be like this for the rest of my life. I was so incredibly convinced. I go back and I read some of my journals from then, and the main thing I kept writing down was, I'm so tired. I'm just so tired. Like, please, like I don't want to do this anymore. Like, please, can I just like escape this? And I do not feel that way at all anymore. So it's really crazy to go back and see that.
Yeah, I bet. And I have to tell you, I want to let everybody know that this is the first time that Chrissy and I are seeing each other visually, physically in person. We have done all our work on the phone, not even on Zoom, on the phone. And so we saw each other for the first time this morning
Hey.
live. And you are absolutely gorgeous. Every time you tell me, I think back to all the times you were talking about how ugly you felt. Of course, I knew you were beautiful. I knew it in here. I just knew it. And now I'm looking at you and I'm thinking anyone looking at you would never be able to imagine that someone so beautiful could think that. Right? So, yeah. And now I can appreciate who you are, how wonderful that you have and that you're in the process continually of creating the life that you want.
And honestly, I feel like I deserve it. I deserve to like feel like a
Yes.
normal human and love myself and be loved and feel like I'm worthy. And I've like, I just lead life differently. My boundaries are more different. If I feel a certain way, like I don't like something, I'm not going to just go through with it. I used to say yes out of social anxiety to everything. And now I'll just say no. I don't care.
Just say no.
No, if I have to be a little bit, I don't want to say selfish, but I have to be a little bit selfish sometimes and take care of myself and recognize what I need.
Selfish is self-care. And selfish in self-care is absolutely the most important thing you can do. But selfish where you're actually hurting someone else is not okay. But it's never selfish. Self-care is never selfish. Doing what's right for yourself is never selfish. It's what we're here to do. We need to take care of ourselves so that we can fulfill our purpose, our mission here, while we're here on this planet, to have the life that we want.
Yeah, I agree. I also feel like I don't feel necessarily like I'm cured or I'm everything's like perfect and I've never had a thought of anxiety again, because I do. I have thoughts. Sometimes I have thoughts of anxiety like, all the time, but it's not the same. It doesn't debilitate me. It doesn't take over. It's more of a passing thought that I can easily think through or rewire to be like, oh, that's not, oh, like before I would literally be like, oh, and sink into it. It would take over my entire body, like physically take over me. And it's just one thought that would completely put me out for days. Now I can have a little moment and then talk myself through it and be like, oh, this is why I'm feeling this way, and then connect it to something. And then I'm just like, okay, I understand. Or I'll have a conversation that makes me feel better with whoever I'm feeling it about, and I move on. It's completely different how I used to navigate my relationships and my life.
Yeah. 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 It's
Also, wearing makeup. I was so afraid to wear makeup and like just like take care of myself and like get dressed and like look cute and like all those things, which I feel like is a normal thing for people to do. I see people doing it and like decorating themselves, and I always felt so uncomfortable with my body and the way I looked that I felt like I could never do that. And since being home and being in therapy this year, like I'm noticing myself getting more into fashion, getting more into like decorating myself and feeling good about it and wearing things I would never feel confident to wear, and I don't even think about it. I put it on and I'm like, yes, I look cute, and I go and I do the
Ah,
thing. And it's so like like in those moments, I have those thoughts like, wow, like look where you are right now. Like it seems like such a small thing, but for someone who it really debilitated me to just do the simplest things, it's so exciting to just be able to like live a normal life or like do those little things.
yeah, they mean so much more now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. This is wonderful. I'm so glad. I remember in the beginning, and I promised you, I said, just stick with this. I promise you'll feel better. You'll get better. It will be better. And I remember it was when I say that in the beginning, it's so hard for people to believe that because that's not where they're at. And, but and then when they're actually starting to see that they're able to feel better little by little, they start to feel better and
Mm-hmm.
they start to regain that hope. In the beginning, it just sounds like a lot of nonsense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would
But
have never imagined where I'd be today. I thought maybe I would just, I don't know, not have as many anxiety attacks and be able to get out of it, but it's so much more than I could have anticipated to get out of this experience.
yeah, you worked really hard. You did magic, honestly.
And I did work hard. I'll honor myself in that way. I definitely worked really, really hard. And there was times where I would be like, I know I need to talk about this and work this through and be in therapy, but and I'll say this for anyone, if people are listening, whoever's listening, there were so many times that even though I knew therapy was working and it was good and I felt good after a session, I didn't want to go into my sessions. I was like, I don't want to do it. I feel good. I don't want to do it. Or like, oh, I just, I would just didn't want to. And then every single time I'd feel better afterwards. Every single time I would leave with better tools to get through my week better and just constantly every week it was just better and better and better. So that's just a normal thing. Like sometimes you just don't want to do something even if it's good for you. You're like, oh, I don't feel like it, but that's part of the work is just you have to try, you have to do it, you have to consistently try. um you can't just start to feel better a little bit better and be like, okay, I'm cured. That's just not how it works.
Yeah. It's so beautiful to see you. So happy. It really is. But
I
you'd
know
be
it's
hard,
weird.
anybody seeing you right now, it would be hard for them to imagine what you felt a year ago, where you were at a
Mhm.
year ago. It wouldn't even sound like the same person.
Not at all.
No.
Not at all. And I've lived like that my whole life. I grew up in a family that it was very it was just a violent nature growing up. It was a lot of abuse growing up. So I lived with that, feeling like normalizing that for until I moved out at like 21. And then those years were all just processing what I'd gone through. And I think I was trying to just feel normal and be normal, but I had not processed what I had gone through. I didn't talk about it. I didn't fully properly understand what I had gone through and what it had done to me. So I'm really grateful that I did do it. And I think that one insecurity I had that had spoken to you about a few times was feeling like, oh, I wish I wish I started therapy sooner. I feel like I'm 27. I'm like, I'm so old, even though obviously I'm not. But I felt like, oh, am I too old to have started therapy? Did I wait am I too late? I felt like, oh, I wish I would have felt this way years ago and saved myself years ago, but you do it when you do it.
You do it when
And
you do it.
and I'm just glad I did it when I did do it, and I feel great now, and I don't really have those feelings anymore of like, oh, I wish I would have done it then or whatever. I'm just really feeling good about life. And um I was always hated growing up. I hated my birthdays. And now I'm excited about my birthday. I'm excited about getting older, which is also a strange flip of how things are as well.
Yeah. Yeah. This is great. Well, we've come up on our time at noon. Boy, it went by fast, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. Oh my gosh.
It sure did. So I just really want to thank you so much
Mm-hmm.
for all that you've shared, because I know that this is going to help other people who can resonate and who feel like you've felt
Yeah.
and who've been where you're at.
Yeah.
And the prayer is just that it go out to people who need to hear it, for people who are seeking help, and that you give them that hope that there is help out there.
Yeah, as much as it doesn't feel like it, as much as it's hard to listen to somebody talking about it and believe them, when you have stronger thoughts in your head that are telling you other things that feel more important, more pressing, it is, and I'm a skeptic in all realms. It is almost like magical how much it can help you and how much your mental health can really just change everything about it and your body as well.
Amen to that. Absolutely. So for anybody, if you also want to contact me for any reason at all, you can contact me at at gmail.com. And I plan on returning and responding all emails. So I guess this concludes our very first podcast.
Woo! First podcast.
Yay!
Yay!
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I hope anyone who's listening that you get something out of this. It took a lot of courage. It takes courage to really show your vulnerability and your authentic self out there, and put yourself out there and just be yourself and recognize that that's all it is. It's about freeing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I'll talk to you all soon. See you next Thursday at 11:11. Bye for now. All right. We did it. All right. We did it. Wow. We did it. We did it. Now I don't know what to do, but we did it. End stream. End the stream. Yes.